Going back a couple of years, we've had, I think, difficulty with sort of an anti-immigrant sentiment, if you would, probably from the federal administration, previous years, I think. So every year we have what are called Refugee and Immigrant Services and Empowerment Programs, or RISE programs for short, that are funded by the Department of Public Health. Every year in the legislature, these programs are defunded, or then we have to lobby for them to be refunded and put back in the legislative language. So every year it's always a battle to hold on to a very small line item of funding dedicated specifically to refugee and immigrant communities. I think one of the central resources that is unavailable through no fault of any program are emergency shelter resources. The shelters are consistently full, and programs have to look to other states or our bordering communities, New Hampshire, Connecticut, New York, to help women find emergency shelter resources. And again, for refugee and immigrant women, that poses an additional barrier. Is someone in that shelter or program going to speak my language, going to understand my cultural needs? Is someone in that program maybe from my own community, and I don't want them to know that I'm needing to flee or needing to leave home for a particular reason? So the hurdles that refugee and immigrant women have to go through to reach safety, liberty, dignity are so much greater than they are for non-immigrant women.
It's extremely hard. We have to become very creative in ways to help someone, not to turn anyone away. So there are some shelters that refuse to take women that are not documented, so we know who they are, so obviously we're not going to send someone there. Shelters are misinformed, and they themselves don't know what they can and cannot do.
No, there's no conflict. We're not going to get in trouble because we're helping immigrants or those who are undocumented in the United States. Quite the contrary. There's relief available under the Violence Against Women Act, which was enacted back in 1994. Unfortunately, because of the nature of abusive relationships, is sometimes the women are afraid to report the crime because the abuser might be deported, and they don't necessarily want that. I mean, they don't want the abuse, but they don't want the abuser, who might also be the father of their children and a provider, to be removed from the U.S.
And some immigrant women, they scare because they make them scared. The husband say, if you say anything, I'm going to call police for you. And they're scared. They don't know. They don't know.
You're experiencing domestic violence, you're less likely to tell anyone about it because everyone knows sort of each other's business. So confidentiality becomes a big issue. And when people do go seek help, the interpreter, when you go to court, that might be your neighbor, that might be your close friend, someone you know, or it could be the friend of the abuser.
You feel shame to tell somebody someone beat you, and after that you live in the same house with him,
Haiti has always been a male-dominating country. Most Haitian people are religious, and they believe that what the Bible said, that the woman has to be submissive, and for some kind of reason they stay submissive no matter what.
They don't necessarily trust the police, and a lot of times they've been discriminated against the police.
They don't necessarily see police departments or government as places that they can turn to for help. They may have had experiences in their own countries with these kinds of organizations as being much more repressive.
They are very, very isolated, one, because of language, and second, I think the abuser uses that to their advantage. They don't want them to be getting English for speakers of other languages classes. They don't want them to be independent, and sometimes, they move to a suburb where that person doesn't have access to people who speak the language or have the same cultural traditions or values.
He's really make me suffer a lot beat me at night time, and I don't know how to say anything. I don't speak English, you know.
Why don't she leave? That's a question where, you know, you hear it everywhere. And I have to say, she may don't leave because of safety. She may actually, she live her life. You know, she is actually safe because she's there. Once she leave, it could be a different story because the victim know the abuser better than we do.
I know it's not legal, but you know, you don't know what to do, because if you take a phone, like he's fighting with you, if you take a phone and go call police, they're going to kill you.
Even though women from immigrant or refugee communities don't necessarily experience more domestic violence, there are 3 times more likely to die of a domestic violence homicide just because there are no resources for intervention.
If that was in Haiti, you have an aunt, you have a sister, you have somebody, you have a parent, you can run to them. But here, you don't know no one. You don't know nobody, you don't know where to go. You know, I changed my name. I pay at the court, probate court, to change my name. And since then, my lawyer tell me to, anytime he come round to my house, they give me restraining order, and this is how he leave me alone. I'm so happy when I really sleep and I wake up in the morning, I don't have nobody to bother me. I just say, thank God.
I think we're beginning to see some initial glimmers of positive news in our economy. And of course, it'll be some time before we see that those positive signs translate into greater tax revenue, which will mean more resources for us at the state. I'm hopeful that things are going to turn soon, but we know that it's still a lot of pain out there for a lot of people.
I think there is. I think we see the tip of the iceberg. I think there are many more women out there needing help and support than we are able to reach.
Domestic violence don't have gender or ethnicity, or, you know, it's actually, and we are reporting on those who step up and speak. What about those who don't do it because of culture, because they're afraid, because many reasons, or those stories, untold stories? Those victims who are still out there.